How's it going, guys? It's Poetry Set, and welcome back to another episode of the Absolutist Italy campaign, as Italy, obviously, where we are at war with France in a punitive war. I think that we will probably win this. It's us versus France, Portugal, and Venice, essentially. Oh, we had an alliance with Portugal. We should be able to re-up it. It's fine. In fact, actually, I want to improve relations with them, which you can't do while you're at war. Yeah, that's right. I knew that. I just didn't remember it. That's okay. We have a royal marriage with them. We can re-up it. You have an heir. Yeah, he's weak. Maybe we'll be able to work someone out there. But yeah, welcome back. We're in a punitive war. I do think we're going to win this because of Austria and me together, as well as the other people, as well as Hungary and stuff. It should be perfectly fine. And Genoa. Genoa's pretty strong, although I don't really like that too. But pretty much everyone that could join our coalition right now is in the war against us. Also, why did it go down to... What? That can't be right. Does joining a punitive war against someone else lower your aggressive expansion? No, okay, no. I'm just thinking that we had lower than we did. But no, it's just that I am misremembering. Alright, never mind. Let's go and send the Papal State this deal. Yo, Papal State dog. I want you to revoke your core on Romagna. And, I'm gonna eat your land. 2 provinces. Only 2 provinces. Provence and, Siena. Which is pretty good. I'm gonna delete this fort in Siena. No, I don't think it's gonna be super helpful. What are our long-term plans? Well, I kind of just think we want to own the whole Mediterranean coastline, or at least the western Mediterranean part. Provence is a first step in France, at least, because of the fact that it's the estuary. You, like, need it, you know? I care less about Draguignan and Avignon. If France conquers them, I won't be super pissed. But I think, I mean, I don't really care to own all the way up to here, but I'm going to try to unite, you know, the provincial dialects, like Occitan and Gascon, and, you know... And that kind of goes along with the idea of, like, saving the lost Romance languages, or the ones that people don't know about. Like Catalan, for instance, which is actually related to Provincial and Occitan a lot, which is kind of due to the proximity and stuff. But yeah, maybe that's what our goal will be. Everything south of the Loire River, right? Yeah, this is the Loire State, so I'm going to assume that's the river there. Am I right? It's the Loire. Yeah, the Loire River, which is, like, right through here, whatever. Maybe everything south of that is what we'll try to own in France eventually. Of course, that doesn't really have to do with anything now. Last episode, I was also talking about, like, some personal stories, and I hope you guys don't mind if I continue with that. Hopefully you're enjoying. It sounds a little, like, self-centered when I say it like that. But I really don't mean it like that. It's mostly just, like, I'm kind of going along with what I was talking about last episode. I'm a writer... at heart. That's part of my personal identity, and so I like to talk about it. It's stuff I enjoy discussing. So hopefully it doesn't rub you guys the wrong way, because I don't mean for it to do so. Oh, hey, look at this. We get our next Splendor thing. We actually have all of them except for that one, so that makes our choice pretty easy, I guess. Okay, there we go. Also, hey, that's nice. Oh god, we might lose this battle. Yeah, that's not good. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. So yeah, so I was talking about how last episode I broke my leg when I was around the age of... Hold on. Let's fight this. Let's fight this Navy. Yeah, we can definitely beat it. When I was like 16, I broke my leg at a skate park. Cause why not? Broke my leg at a skate park. It was a rough few months for me. Not only because of that, because, well, kind of connected this is that soon after that, me and my current girlfriend actually had a bad breakup where we, like, didn't even talk to each other for 4 months. We are back together now, actually, and we've been together like 4.5 years. I don't normally talk about her on camera, actually. On stream, I do. But, you know, that's because that's more like a personal setting. Nice. I can't believe they just let me do that. But I don't talk about her on camera, but she's cool. She's really awesome. But basically, so now their Navy, yeah, their Navy's trapped. So it led to a bad breakup with, and it led to a bad breakup between us, and I really do mean it when I say, like, it led to that. It directly, maybe it didn't cause that directly, it was still my fault, basically, but it was part of it. It really was. It's not even like I'm trying to excuse myself for, like, breaking up with my girlfriend, which, again, it's a personal issue. I'm not going to get into the details of that, certainly not, but, I'm not going to get into the details, but basically, just having my leg be broken and just stuff, and going through this experience, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a second, having that experience really, like, I don't know, it almost, like, shattered my identity in a weird way. It sounds really, again, it sounds really pretentious when I say that, but it's true. I was, like, really confused about, like, what I wanted and stuff, and like, who I was and stuff, and so it kind of put me into a state of depression for a while. I wasn't, like, super depressed, and so I don't mean to take away from people who do have chronic depression, because that's a whole nother thing that's a lot worse than what I had. You know, I'm not trying to take away from that. And statistically speaking, there's probably several out there watching this who have chronic depression, and like, you know, it really sucks, and I wish I could do something to help. You know, hopefully trying to just hang out and make videos does help a little bit, but you know, I want to give you respect for dealing with that on a daily basis and stuff, you know, and I'm not trying to take credit for that, because it's not a thing that you really want to have to take credit for anyways, you know. But in any case, I really was depressed, though. I may not be a depressive person or a depressed person in general, but I had I had an isolated instance where for several months even, or at least like a month or two, I was like crippled with depression, because of the fact that it was a traumatic event, you know. It wasn't, it was just that bad. To give like a little more background of what it actually was like. Oh, that's actually going to be really good. What actually happened is, after the break happened, they put the rod in my leg, and I was in the ICU after this, because that's what happens when you have surgery. I was in the ICU, and they were like, you'll be fine in 2 to 3 days. However, within, you know, 7 or 8 hours of the surgery, I was high out of my mind, by the way, for most of this part. For the first, like, 10 hours, or, I don't know, first 3 or 4 hours after the surgery, I remember nothing, because I was, like, basically in a comatose state. After that point, I start to remember some stuff, although it's still very loopy. But at the same time, I was... I remember the bad part, which was that it was super, super painful. Basically, I had just gone through surgery, and now my leg is swelling uncontrollably. My leg was like... It tripled its size, and I'm not even joking. I might be exaggerating a little bit. It was at least double, though. I'm not exaggerating about that. My leg was double its size at least, at one point, because of this compartment syndrome thing that happens when you get a traumatic injury. It can happen. It's still fairly rare, or not rare, but uncommon. But I did have it happen to me. I had this thing called compartment syndrome, and yeah, it just... Basically, my leg started swelling, and so what happens is, when you have this happen to you, then you have to act quick on it, and basically, they had to cut my leg open on both sides in another surgery, so that it didn't cut all the muscle off, and the nerves and all the tissue, so that it didn't swell to the point of cutting off all the blood flow and killing all my tissue and muscle and nerves. Which is something that can happen, and it was a legitimate fear. So, went into surgery within 24 hours of the first surgery, or I think it was a little over 24 hours, which honestly probably made it worse. But yeah, I had this second surgery. They opened up my leg on both sides, and when I mean open up, there was I still have scars from this actually. There was literal 10-inch gashes on the sides of my leg, on both sides of my leg. There are these 10-inch gashes, and it was just open. I couldn't see anything because they had it wrapped up, but I actually had a pump hooked up to my... I had a freaking pump hooked up to my leg that was sucking the drainage out as it was coming out. And with this on, I literally could not walk at all because it was so painful. Like, it was basically as bad as if I had been walking with the broken bone in the first place. Because it was my... you have like an open wound the size, like a 10-inch gash on both sides of your leg. Trust me, you're not going to be moving unless you literally have to, and it's a survival thing. You know, I would have moved if that had been the case. But barring that, if I'm in the hospital, it's so painful, you know, I can't describe it really. Still probably doesn't come close to childbirth, but it was painful, trust me. So with that, we have this searing pain and stuff. They hooked me up to a morphine pump, actually. So I had a morphine pump that I could click every 8 minutes to get morphine injected through my IV. There's a funny side story to that. I actually tried to limit myself so that I didn't have to, like, suffer withdrawal, and it actually kind of worked. I didn't get, like, addicted, and I never felt like I really needed it. I used it, like, every 3 hours instead of 8 minutes. I like to pat myself on the back a little for that, because it was like a mind game I was playing with myself. It's like, don't you dare click that button. You can wait a little longer before the pain becomes, you know, that bad. So yeah, so then I was in the hospital, and I actually had to go through another, like, 3 surgeries in which they reopened the wounds to examine it, look inside to see how it was going, and then reclose it. Did that like 3 or 4 more times, and then they finally took out all the stitches. They took them out on one side first, and then on the other. But yeah, had to do that 3 more times. I was in the hospital for a total of another 8 days after that point. Oh wow, Milan got Milan got released? They didn't even exist before. Wow. Could I pass it now? I was gonna say. Oh yeah, and I own your cores too. Man, Venice just got effed. It's cool. But yeah, so then I finally get out of the hospital, but for another 2 weeks after this, I'm barely moving. I'm sitting. The peak of my movement is that I'm moving from my bed in my room to the frog, which some people might not know what that means. I don't know if it's a southern thing or an American thing, but it means family room over garage. That's all it is. It's just like a bonus room above your garage. I would move from my bed to our frog to sit on the couch and play video games on the Xbox. That was the extent of my movement. I had all my food brought to me, and it's not like, you know, I really did, like, I honestly felt bad. I was like, I don't want people to have to basically serve me in my bed. I feel terrible, you know? I mean, that was part of what they won that. That was part of what contributed to my depression, is, like, you know, having to have all this stuff done for me. I felt helpless, you know? So I'm sitting here in my bed, and I just got really depressed. I was out of school for 2 weeks, had to catch up on my work. Luckily, my teachers were all very understanding. One of my previous teachers, who I'd had 2 years before, she was like my personal guidance person for this time while I was in here, you know, out of school basically. She like sent me my assignment. She was a liaison between me and my other teachers, which was really awesome, and she is really a great teacher. But in general, like, I got behind, but luckily again, it didn't affect my semester too poorly. It was actually a really bad semester in some ways. Like, I had chemistry, and I hated chemistry. That's the only class I've ever gotten a C in, I believe. Although I might have gotten a B for the year-long grade, or the semester-long grade rather. But in any case, it was the class I did the worst on ever. It was not fun. We're actually losing this war, by the way. I guess it's just because France has been sieging down all these countries up here, huh? I should help out. Let's help out. Let's help out a little bit. Like, come down here, siege down some stuff. But yeah, so so this was a bad time, and again, like I said, I was pretty depressed. and me and my girlfriend broke up, and there was a whole bunch of other stuff that happened. But at the same time, I was also like, at least after like the first 3 or 4 weeks, where I just felt like doing nothing. I just felt like sitting there and wallowing in pain and self-pity, which was not fun. After that, though, I had like this huge rush of like emotional inspiration almost, which was really strange for me. Seeing that it was like a really sucky period of my life. So I had this like huge rush of just like wanting to write about everything and wanting to write about love, life, you know, nature and stuff. And yeah, and I mean, that's basically it for that story. But like, it was a long recovery period. I actually had to, I had to go to physical therapy for about a year. For the first 2 months or so after I got out of the hospital, I could not lift my foot up. I could not. Like, it was not possible to lift my foot up. What I mean by that is, like, lift my foot up by the ankle. So, like, you know, moving your ankle. If you pull your foot up, you can do that. I couldn't do that. I couldn't, and it sucked, you know? I couldn't do that at all. I would try. My brain would be sending the signals, but they were lost in transit, I guess would be a way to put it. They never reached the nerves, because the nerves were dead or damaged. I couldn't do that for like 2 or 3 months, and physical therapy, I had like electroshock therapy or whatever it is to try to stimulate it and send more signals to your nerves there. I did that for several months without any progress, and then finally, just like one day, I was like, oh, hey, I can like use my leg as intended again, and that was awesome. You know, that was like a feeling of like of joy, you know, and thankfulness. Let's see, what else? Oh, timer's up. Jeez, you know, when you're talking about your like, you know, your life and stuff that's important to you, then it's time flies. In any case, we have full legitimacy, so nothing to do there, really. Wait, hold on. Why was I saying legitimacy? Obviously, we're not going to do that. Inflation's good. Let's go ahead and come over here. Tarragona. Did I ever make Catalan a promoted culture? I did. Good. So we definitely want to conquer the Catalan provinces. So yeah, like, I just had so that was a huge, like, period of inspiration in my life, where I had just, like, a whole bunch of stuff, like, emotions going through my brain, and that was, like, I would say that really peaked in, like, May of that year, when I just, I had a lot of stuff going on that is a little too personal even for me to talk about, but, yeah, it was just an important formative experience for me. Also, if you ever, you know, you never want to get your leg broken. Trust me when I say that. That's all. What is this? Great Britain? Could be interesting. But yeah, it was quite an experience. And the whole reason I started talking about this last episode, it's taking like 2 whole episodes to talk about this. The whole reason this was a thing is because of the fact, oh, Portugal's out of the war, nice. The whole entire reason that this is a thing I talked about is because it relates to me being Poetry Stud on YouTube. I actually started my YouTube channel during that time period, at the end of that sort of like renaissance or personal renaissance. That's when I started my YouTube channel. In like July of 2014. I started then, and I've been doing it since, consistently even. I've never taken more than like a 2-week break out of the past, you know, several years. That's still crazy to me. But yeah, I started my YouTube channel then and stuff, and but with that, oh gosh, now I don't remember again. I've forgotten again what I was talking about exactly. But yeah, that's part of the reason, and like, I used to write a lot more in that time period than I do now. I don't write nearly as much now as I did then. I don't know. I think my writing is a little more well-rounded now, but I don't write as much, which sucks. But I'm okay with that. I still have been writing occasionally and stuff, and I've been writing stuff that's important to me, so that's good. On the other hand, that actually, it's not exactly the reason why I made Poetry Stud my YouTube channel name. That actually relates to like one of my friends. He actually like one of my best friends in like middle school, early high school years. He called me his stud brother. We are like really good friends, and I would always give him advice with girls, which I wasn't even necessarily qualified to, but I told him like, you should do this with this girl that you like, and do this, and he was like, and he did it, and he was like, yeah, and most of the time it like worked all right, but also I just was there for him when he like wanted to talk about like his problems with girls. He didn't have the best luck with girls, but he's a cool guy, very nice guy. I haven't talked to him in a couple of years actually. I need to, but besides the point. And he called me his stud brother. He actually, so I knew him from church, and so he called some of our other like church mates, I guess. It's a weird word. He called some of them like by different nicknames. Some of them were like his nerd, like one of them was his nerd brother. Another one was his I don't know what else, but like but I was his stud brother because I helped him with his girl problems and whatnot. But oh, that's not a good idea. France. What? You can't go there, though? That's stupid. I'm gonna actually help out here. Oh, this was a bad idea. But we're gonna win. Yeah, it wasn't a terrible idea. We lost? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That's annoying. Well, whatever. I think we still did a lot of damage to them. Austria, you should just peace out, dog. We're not going to win this, I don't think. Not going to win it resoundingly, at least. I think we're going to start annexing Algiers after this, by the way. Oh, there we go. And they did a white piece, which means I didn't get any favors. That's bull crap, if you ask me. I think you should still get favors for white pieces. If it's not a win, yeah, if you lose, I understand. But seriously, a white piece doesn't give you any favors even though you put in all that work? Jeez, that's annoying. Yeah, I think we're going to go ahead and start annexing Algiers. I think they've, outlived their usefulness to me. Sounds kind of mean when I say it like that, doesn't it? Who else do we want to go to war with? That's a good question. Not really sure. I will ally you, by the way, Portugal. Oh, God, I gotta go in a second. I have a stream to catch, actually. And by that, a stream to stream. But anywho, that's how I became Poetry Stud. Oh, gosh darn it. Whatever. Algiers, you have one last job, But yeah, that's how I became Poetry Stud, actually. But part of it was because I was writing so much during that time period. My YouTube channel wasn't the first thing that my friend like made. Oh, look at that, our name is better. It wasn't the first thing that my friend actually made called that. He actually made my Twitter for me, which I still have now, and I'm using. He made my Twitter for me because I was refusing to make Twitter. I'm glad he did because I use it for this now. He made a Twitter for me and called it Poetry Stud. And I was like, whatever, I like that name, I'll use it. And so now I use that for and then I decided I'll use that for my YouTube channel too when I made it. And I turned it into that. And that's how we got here. But anyways, that was like 2 episodes filled with war, but also me talking about my backstory, which is a weird way of putting it, but Anyways, strange videos. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. There was a whole nother actual thing I wanted to talk about in relation to both of those things, but I don't have time. So, in any case, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye.